Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roach Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. The transfer portal just keeps on chugging along, and even though the portal's starting to wind down, there are still some big names entering and transferring to other schools. And the Miami Hurricanes, they just landed their first and much-needed transfer portal edition of this offseason. Matthew Cleveland, the former Florida State guard/forward, has decided to transfer to rival Miami. And I'm going to go over whether I think this will make Miami a competitive team again in the ACC and whether they can be a team that was just as good as this past season's team. Now, looking at the Miami Hurricanes, they are a team that's had a lot of struggles in the ACC throughout the years. They have not been one of the best ACC teams, but Jim Larranaga, the guy that led George Mason in that deep tournament run back in 2006, he has been the Miami head coach for a while, and they've had some success, but they have never been a team toward the top of the ACC. Never been a part of that elite group like Virginia, North Carolina, and Duke, but Miami's getting there. They've got some good NIL going on right now, and they have got a fan base that is growing and growing, and since their football team's been really strong, maybe they can get back on track soon. Miami basketball has definitely been the benefactor of that, and they have been having a lot more success lately. And getting a player like Matthew Cleveland just continues the good times that are rolling in through the transfer portal for Miami, because they've already brought in players like Nigel Pack and Norchad Omier through the transfer portal this past season, and Miami was able to have a lot of success with both of those players, which is why they went to the Final Four this past season. But now bringing in Matthew Cleveland, it is a huge addition because Jordan Miller is out of eligibility. He is gone, and Miami being able to get Matthew Cleveland, he is a very similar player in size and skill set to Jordan Miller. Matthew Cleveland is also a guy that I think could still be in the NBA. He was a former five-star recruit, and he committed to Leonard Hamilton and the Florida State Seminoles, but after their 9-23 season this past year, Matthew Cleveland said, I'm out of here, and I'm going to my rival Miami, which is a tough blow to Florida State and Leonard Hamilton, not only because you lose Matthew Cleveland, a potential NBA talent, one of the best players on your team this past season, but he's going to transfer to another ACC school and your rival at that. That is a tough loss and a bad break for Florida State, but it is for Miami to gain here getting Matthew Cleveland. They've been having more success at Florida State, and Matthew Cleveland wants to join the party. And he is a 6'7", 200-pound guard/forward, so again, playing that four spot like Jordan Miller did this past season for Miami, and Jordan Miller did a great job at that. And I think that Matthew Cleveland saw that, Jim Larranaga, how he used Jordan Miller, and that's why he's wanting to join Miami, because he is a very similar player. And he averaged 13.8 points per game, 7.4 rebounds, and 1.8 assists this past season for the Florida State Seminoles. So he was by far one of their best players. He shot 44.5% from the field, which is a really solid percentage. 35% from the three-point line, which is much better than he shot as a freshman. If Matthew Cleveland had shot 35% as a freshman in college basketball, he more than likely would be in the NBA. But the NBA has not taken a chance on him yet because he did not shoot the ball well coming into college, but he's getting better. And the more that he improves, could still potentially land him a spot in the NBA in the future. And he only shot 69% from the free throw line, which is another potential risk with Matthew Cleveland, in the fact that if you need him at the end of a game to hit a big free throw, he might not be able to get the job done. Yes, Miami probably will have other players that shoot a way better percentage from the free throw line, so it's no big deal, but you still want to have a guy who can shoot a high percentage of the line. Matthew Cleveland does not shoot the greatest percentage from the free throw line, which is probably a risk for why he has not been in the NBA yet either, just as much as his three-point shooting percentage. But Matthew Cleveland, don't let the numbers fool you. He is a fantastic basketball player that is only getting better, and I think he could improve on his 13.8 points per game and 35% three-point shooting percent and 69% free throw shooting for Miami next season. And if he does, Miami could be a dangerous team yet again next season. And Matthew Cleveland's going to have a big role because, as I already said, Jordan Miller out of eligibility. Isaiah Wong, he is in the NBA draft, and he's likely not coming back. He has made no indication of it. I don't think he's officially said that he is gone, where he is not able to return to college, but it's more than likely than not that Isaiah Wong is gone. Tough loss for Miami. He was a really good basketball player, and he took and made some ridiculous shots for Miami throughout his career, and definitely helped with the turnaround and the upward trajectory for the Miami Hurricanes the past couple years with Jim Larranaga head coach. Now, Now, the bigger news for Miami is whether they're going to get Nigel Pack and Norchad Omier back. Both players are testing the NBA draft waters. Both are players that Miami brought in this past offseason, and they're both really talented players. And I feel like if Nigel Pack or Norchad Omier, or even worse, both players leave for Miami, the Hurricanes could really struggle next season because of the fact Miami's more than likely not going to be able to bring in enough talent to replace that this late in the ballgame in the transfer portal. But we're going to have to see. If I had to guess, I would say Nigel Pack and Norchad Omier will be back, because Norchad Omier, he will be the starting center, even though he's undersized, but he did play that role really well as a small ball 5, a short, big-bodied player that could take the brunt of the blows in the ACC. Nigel Pack, just as much as Isaiah Wong was this past season hitting ridiculous shots, Nigel Pack does as well. He is a ridiculous three-point shooter. He can take and make big shots, even though he is undersized. But both players were big transfer portal additions this past season, and now getting Matthew Cleveland this offseason is a big start for Miami in the transfer portal. And I don't think that Jim Larranaga can be done yet, because there are roster spots still available. Because Harlan Beverly, he transferred to Wichita State. That's a tough loss, because he was a guy that was improving, and he was a part of that guard rotation this past season. You also look at Anthony Walker. Yes, he was a guy that did not play too much for the Miami Hurricanes this past season, because he was a forward, and Miami ran with 4 guards. Kind of that stretch 4 with Jordan Miller, but then you had an undersized big in Norchad Omier. But Anthony Walker decided to transfer to Indiana because he probably feels Indiana will better utilize him in his last season of college basketball, because Indiana is more of a post-oriented team, whereas Miami's more guard-oriented. But he's gone as well. But even though Miami is losing Anthony Walker and Harlan Beverly to the transfer portal, Wooga Poplar and Bensley Joseph, 2 other rotational players, they are back. I think that is huge, specifically Wooga Poplar, because of the fact he was a guy that was getting better and better as the season went along, and he was actually really solid in the NCAA tournament for the Miami Hurricanes. So I think both those players will be huge. Bensley Joseph, I think, could improve as well. But Miami still has roster spots available. They filled at least 2 of those spots in the high school recruiting class with Michael Nwoko, a 6'9" forward. He's a 3-star recruit. And Keyshawn Jordan, a 6'6" guard. He's a 3-star recruit as well. So Miami doesn't have a vaunted recruiting class, but they have 2 guys that potentially have some upside to be able to contribute as freshmen. But we'll have to see how they're going to do. It's always tough to adjust to the college game. But the Miami Hurricanes right now are not looking too bad for next season of college basketball. Could they be as good as they were last year going to the Final Four? I don't know about that. It's always possible. I do think, as is, Miami will take a step back. But with Matthew Cleveland's addition, that will at least guarantee, more than likely, that Miami will be a team that goes to the NCAA tournament next year again, and will be a team that can at least be in the top half of the ACC and compete potentially for an ACC title. Might not win it, but still, I think as long as you get Nigel Pack and Norchad Omier back from testing the NBA draft water, which is more likely than not, and the fact you do have some key rotational players in Bensley Joseph and Wooga Poplar back as well, I really think that Miami basketball has enough there to potentially be a solid team next season. But Matthew Cleveland, if he's the only transfer that Miami gets in this offseason, he was a huge addition, but I don't think that Miami's done yet. There's still some guys entering the portal and guys that are still left in the portal currently that Miami could still get, so we'll have to see what else Jim Larranaga can cook up for the Hurricanes in the portal. Miami's done a great job in the portal the last couple years, but getting Matthew Cleveland, a guy that's a former 5-star recruit from your rival in Florida State in the ACC, to be able to reel him away and get him to Miami, a guy that I still think has NBA draft potential. He is a fantastic basketball player, has a big skill set. He does struggle in some areas, which is why he's still in the college game, like free throw shooting, still kind of at 3-point shooting in other areas as well, like handling the basketball. But if Matthew Cleveland doesn't prove at those things for the Miami Hurricanes next season, then I think the Hurricane will be a good team in college basketball next season, with the potential to be great if the Hurricanes really develop the players they have on the roster around Matthew Cleveland, or if they're able to land some more players in the transfer portal before the offseason is done. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below what you think about Matthew Cleveland transferring from the Florida State Seminoles to the Miami Hurricanes, and whether you think that Miami has the potential to be a really solid team yet again in college basketball next season. How good of a job you think Jim Larranaga is doing as the Miami Hurricanes head coach. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I will see you next time.